Well, hello and welcome. It's Doug Diamond here. Hope you guys are doing well. It is 10 p.m. straight up on April the 14th, 2024. You've reached another Diamond Report Live, and I'm glad you guys made it. Got quite a few people already tuned in, so thanks you guys for being here. And I thought we'd skip the first video tonight just because we can always play one a little bit later. I didn't have anything super pressing from the video world to play tonight, so I just figured we would go ahead and get right into it. Hope you guys have had a good week. It's been an interesting week, to say the least. Lots going on. We've got the whole Israel and Iran thing that's literally just blowing up now, and we'll see where that goes. And we've got some articles we're going to take a look at tonight. No real videos, I don't think, on that unless they're embedded in the articles, but I'm sure you guys have already been pretty inundated with info about what's happening in Israel, between Iran and Israel and so forth. So anyway, we will take a look at that amongst the other news as well. And did you survive the 2024 eclipse? I know I did. Otherwise, I guess I wouldn't be here. But yes, it was nothing but clouds where I am. I tried to run my GoPro camera that day and capture. I was hoping to get something usable and good, but instead I got nothing but clouds, which is why if you're on the Substack list, I sent out it was the invitation to tonight's show that had a graphic on there that said, I survived the 2024 eclipse, and it was nothing but clouds, because that's all I saw. But I did have some friends that did see the eclipse in totality, and they were in the path in Indiana, and it was quite beautiful, actually. So anyway, no second suns, but we'll get into that hopefully a little bit later if we have some time. Didn't see anybody reporting second suns, and I think you know what I'm talking about. I mentioned that might be a possibility as far as Planet X and so forth. So I don't know. I think that it's still just a little too early for that, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. All right, let's take a look at HalTurnerRadioShow.com. We've got Wars and Rumors of Wars as a graphic. Thought that was kind of an interesting picture with the chess pieces and the bombs and the military and so forth. So this is what Hal's got on his website. Again, HalTurnerRadioShow.com. I don't get anything for promoting it. I think he does a good job, and he oftentimes has breaking information here. So let's take a look at this first article front and center here. Ready for another week of media reports on a possible Israeli retaliation? Question mark. Waiting for Israeli retaliation is, quote, imminent, or in hours, or as early as tomorrow, or within days, or during the week. And of course, soon. I would say also you'd have to add the within the next 48 hours. That's what we have. We've had that the entire time with this deal with Iran. It says when the Israeli War Cabinet convened, their immediate response to the Iran response attack was to ask for a counterstrike on Iran immediately. They did not even want to wait for the attack's results. They were concerned that American pressure would arrive and wanted to attack first. In other words, American pressure to not attack. Everyone else in the cabinet, as well as the IDF chief of staff and Netanyahu, were said to be against that. That was all before fake President Biden and the UK and France asked for restraint. So that's kind of where it's at the moment. And Hal is saying the scuttlebutt is that tonight, which I think it's 8 hours ahead. So it's almost morning there at this point. So I guess there's some discussions that the counter attack is that there will be another strike from Israel to Iran. I don't know if it'd be Iran proper or if it would be just military targets or what. But anyways, we don't really know. So we'll have to wait and see how that works out. But his update says 5:07 Eastern tonight, Wall Street Journal. Some Western officials, Israel's response to Iran is expected soon. U.S. won't be part of the attack. And then also tonight, Hebrew Channel 14 in Israel is now publicly reporting the War Cabinet decided to strike Iran tonight. So we will see. And I guess we can look at Twitter. That's probably the best place to check in on that and see if there's anything new happening. So let's do that. So if we go to twitter.com, and I've got my page pulled up here, I thought I would just check and see what's trending over here. I don't really see anything that's talking about anything as far as an ongoing attack. So we'll monitor that as we go through the broadcast tonight and see if anything does indeed transpire. Battle damage assessment, Iran strike against Israel, and videos. Intelligence community sources confirm the following battle damage information. After the Iran retaliation against Israel, which took place last night, Iran fired 185 drones. All 185 were either shot down or otherwise crashed en route to targets. But don't think that this means that Iran is inept. So let's keep reading here. I wanted to read a part of an op-ed piece on Hal's site I thought was really good. So they fired 185 drones. All of them were shot down or otherwise crashed. Iran fired 36 cruise missiles, and all 36 were shot down. And they fired 110 ballistic missiles, and 103 of those 110 were shot down. 7 got through and impacted Israel. Those 7 ballistic missiles which got through and impacted were all hypersonics, according to Hal's reporting here. The particular hypersonic missiles which got through all the defenses were the ones pictured at the top of this article, the Fatah 1. Not one of those was shot down. So these are hypersonic missiles, apparently. And there's a Wikipedia about the missile. At the bottom of the specs above accuracy points out that these missiles have maneuverability to cross missile shields. Clearly, that capability worked last night. As a result of the missile impacts, 2 Israeli air bases sustained significant damage. So I didn't really hear too many reports of people being killed, but what I did hear was that Iran's missiles that got through were highly targeted. And let's take a look at this. I thought this was a pretty good piece here. Israel War Cabinet meeting in bunker. This was updated earlier today. Now, this is Hal's op-ed piece on his site. Again, it's open to the public. I wouldn't be reading this if it was subscribers only. So it says 8:30 a.m. Eastern U.S. time on Sunday, this morning, Israel's War Cabinet will convene a meeting in an army bunker, not its regular meeting place at the Prime Minister's office. The meeting will discuss an Israeli response, quote-unquote, to yesterday's Iran response to the April 1st attack by Israel upon the Iran embassy compound in Damascus, Syria. Let's not forget, Israel started this. U.S. illegitimate President Joe Biden has reportedly told Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu the United States will not participate in any Israeli attack upon Iran. According to several sources inside Israel, after being told that, Netanyahu vetoed a response plan previously approved by the War Cabinet. As such, this morning's meeting will likely be very frustrating for the Israelis since they apparently can't get the U.S. to fight Iran for them. Yesterday's launch of drones, cruise missiles, and ballistic missiles by Iran marked the first time in history that Iran directly attacked Israel. That's never happened before. This event has changed the Middle East in many ways forever. First, the awe of Israeli military power has been dimmed by Iran, while U.S., UK, and Israeli planes were able to down all drones launched by Iran, and Israel's David's Sling and Arrow missile defense systems, were able to down all cruise missiles fired by Iran. At least 7 Iranian ballistic missiles got through and struck Israel. Were the drones a distraction or bait? Looking back, it seems that's exactly what they were. By launching the drones and announcing that they had done so while those drones still needed another 57 minutes to arrive to targets, Iran baited the entire region to see who would do what. They found out quite clearly. While Jordan, Egypt, Iraq, and Lebanon all closed their airspace, Jordan went much further. Jordan used its own missile defenses to shoot down drones, and then Jordan opened its airspace to allow Israeli, U.S., and UK fighter jets into Jordan to shoot down Iranian drones and missiles. So Jordan took sides with Israel against Iran. That's a big deal. A game changer for relations in the Middle East. I would also add that Jordan, last I heard, has control over the Temple Mount. So how does that play into things? Interestingly, the use of drones by Iran also provided another real-life intelligence info. The drones all got shot down. The cruise missiles all got shot down. The ballistic missiles mostly got shot down, but 7 of them got through. As a result, Iran now knows how many drones can be successfully engaged by all the countries in the region acting collectively. Thus, Iran knows how many additional drones must be fired to overcome those defenses. In addition, Iran now also knows it was the U.S. and the U.K., not Israel, whose fighter jets shot down most of the drones. So without U.S. and U.K. support, Israel is quite vulnerable, much more vulnerable than Israel would have anyone else know. Similarly, Iran cruise missiles all got shot down, so Iran knows it must fire X more such missiles to have any hope at all of getting through. The ballistic missiles, however, were the big intelligence prize for Iran. Out of the missiles fired, 7 got through. Now, Iran knows the precise number of ballistic missiles it must fire to saturate Israeli defenses, thereby getting far more through those defenses if any future battle is necessary. So it sounds to me like Iran has just kind of set them up in a way where they know now where the weaknesses are and who's siding with who. Pretty smart, if you ask me. I'm not taking sides. I'm just saying it. If anything, it's probably showed the Iranians where the vulnerabilities are in the whole Iron Dome and the other defense systems on Israel. So, pretty interesting. Again, it's on HalTurnerRadioShow.com. There's a lot more there on that article that you're welcome to go and check out yourself. Emergency meeting of the UN Security Council here in New York City today. And that's where Hal is. So that's why he says here. At the request of the State of Israel, the UN Security Council will hold an emergency meeting today. I guess that happened earlier. No one is quite sure as to why Israel has just asked for the emergency meeting. Israel bombed an Iranian embassy compound in Damascus on April 1st, and Iran just fired missiles and drones in response last night. The response was permitted under the UN Charter, Article 51. What Israel hopes to achieve with this emergency meeting is not known, especially since, according to a public statement by Iran, the matter is now closed. So yeah, we'll look at that in just a bit as well. So, Iran is saying the matter is closed. The matter is deemed finished, completed. So now, if that's the case, if the scores have been settled, what will Israel do? I think that's the next logical question. It's what everyone's asking, actually. It says, update 3:30 p.m. Relevant portion of Iranian statement at the Security Council. If Israel wants to continue its evil operations, it will receive a response dozens of times stronger. We will not hesitate to defend ourselves and reveal a small part of our deterrent power. We targeted Israeli military sites in the attack, and there are no other operations on our agenda, meaning they don't want to kill your average citizen. We took minimal punitive measures and avoided targeting economic facilities in infrastructure. So you can see that their hits were very precise, unlike what the Israelis are doing, carpet bombing Gaza, leveling Gaza, turning it into a parking lot. A very lumpy parking lot, I suppose. But anyway, that's the articles that I had pulled up on HalTurnerRadioShow.com, and we'll just go back to the homepage here and make sure you didn't add anything else since I brought this site up earlier today. And I don't see anything else. There's a few more things here that might be interesting if you want to check it out. Here's one about the CIA making its move. They want the Shah back in Iran, so who knows where that's going. Anyway, yep. So Hal's site is a good one. And then needtoknow.news. I've got a few articles from there as well. Tucker Carlson, how does the government of Israel treat Christian leaders in the West should care? But they don't, because Israel is always right, they say. Last month, Republican Congressman Tim Walberg, a former evangelical pastor, said the U.S. should not spend a dime on humanitarian aid for Gaza. He said he would like to see the area treated like Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and to get it over quickly. He added that the same should go for Ukraine. Tucker Carlson said that Christianity is the religion among all world religions that uniquely abhors mass killing, and there's no excuse for that from a Christian perspective. Yeah, you might want to remind the former evangelical pastor of that. I have a feeling that a lot of them probably think that. Reverend Munther Isaac, the pastor at the Evangelical Lutheran Christian Church in Bethlehem, said that most leaders have a shallow knowledge of Israel, but hold strong opinions shaped by their political party rather than investigation of the facts. Their decisions impact millions of lives. He said that evangelical Christians support Israel because of the theology of Christian Zionism that teaches Christians must support Israel as the presence of Jews prepares for the end times and the second coming of Christ, even though that's all a lie. They still have to support it. Christians support Israel as a fulfillment of prophecy, not realizing the consequences on real lives, and the fact that they've been had, and that they're getting their pockets picked the entire time. So anyway, there is a video embedded here and further information, needtoknow.news. Another one from that same site, Turkey restricts exports to Israel until ceasefire declared. Turkey has announced it will restrict exports to Israel following protests against President Erdogan's economic ties to Israel. A Turkish official declared this decision will remain in place until Israel, under its obligations emanating from international law, urgently declares a ceasefire in Gaza and allows the unhindered flow of sufficient humanitarian aid into the Gaza Strip. Yeah, without getting murdered. In response to the sanctions, Israeli Minister of Foreign Affairs asked the U.S. Congress to step in and sanction Turkey. Katz, who's the person they're talking about here, also alleged Erdogan's sanctions against Israel are in support of Hamas. Bombshell video, CIA officer, former FBI, boasts we can, quote, put anyone in jail, set them up. So this guy is an interesting little dude here. You may have seen the video as it was being shared this last week or so. Gavin O'Blennis is the guy's name. He looks like a Gavin O'Blennis. He has an oblong head. It's kind of strange looking. A CIA contract specialist who also worked as an FBI operations technician and a Homeland Security Immigration Services analyst told an undercover journalist with Sound Investigations that the FBI, quote, can put anyone in jail, set them up, end quote. O'Blennis said of InfoWars founder AJ, the FBI, quote, took his money away and chopped his legs off, end quote. O'Blennis stated at least 20 undercover FBI agents were at the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021, and some of them are now with the CIA. He also said the FBI uses embellished news, quote, embellished news, and fake social media to really get people mad. So those would be trolls and so forth, I suppose, as far as some of the social media things that they're talking about. Trolls and fake articles, fake news, and so forth. Anyway, but the video is embedded here. You really got to see it if you missed it, even if you don't like AJ. The point is, they can do this to absolutely anyone. They picked AJ because he was front and center and has a huge following, obviously. Yeah, Emily says reptilian. He may be. Let's just say I don't think his preference, I'm just guessing, I don't think his preference is probably women, just based on some of his mannerisms. Pretty easy assumption to make there, I think. If you've seen him talk and in that video, I thought it was pretty obvious. All right. Linked over here from revolver.news is this one from Thread Reader. World War III is starting. Discourse is going to ramp up in the next few hours. This is dated yesterday. So here's how things will really work. Iranian policy since 2020, after the Trump admin whacked Soleimani, has been strategic patience, i.e., Iran's unique set of challenges can't be immediately won. And this is the tweet that's embedded here. Iran attack on Israel. Over 50 Iranian drones have been launched towards Israel. Set to take several hours before reaching Israeli airspace. Drone activity sighted over Iraq. Airspace of Iran, Jordan, and Israel set to be shut, and then so on. Israeli military and air defenses on high alert. And thus require perseverance until more favorable conditions are present. More specifically, Tehran knows it cannot outright beat the U.S. and Israel in a straight-up war if it came down to it. Yes, it could and would do horrible damage, probably taking down the U.S. empire in the process. But the Iranian regime probably wouldn't make out either given the requisite costs, opportunities for dissent, intentions of other actors and ethnic groups, etc., etc. This is why a lot of the game for the past few years has instead been using various regional agents and proxies to distract and probe its opponents, F around and inflict cuts as often as possible, but don't use toxic band-aids, which are sometimes retaliated, but try not to escalate things too much. So the main reason I brought this article up really was that, it's a question mark as to what Iran will do, but I think it's even a bigger question mark as to what the American empire will do, because we have all of these illegals coming in across the border, and who's to say they don't stage some false flag here in the U.S. somewhere and blame Iran, and then boom, before you know it, U.S. is involved in a war in Iran or with Iran. So who knows where we're headed with this, but I thought that was kind of an interesting article. It's on Threadreader is where that one is. And then this one from Revolver Watch. Illegals find a new way to break the law on streets of D.C. while cops smile and look away. That's what they do. Talking about mopeds. Have you seen a lot of mopeds where you live? I haven't necessarily, but that's what this article is about. Says suddenly mopeds are everywhere. If you follow DC social media, everywhere they're not supposed to be. Zipping along bike lanes and through traffic stops. Why it matters. In the city's evolving streetscape, where drivers and cyclists battle for road room alongside scooters and e-bikes, mopeds are the latest contenders. They're a lifeline of an inexpensive transport for some and a street scourge to others. By the numbers, mopeds registrations have jumped nearly 165% in the last 2 years, according to D.C. Department of Motor Vehicles, which clocked 143 registrations last year, way up from 54 in 2022. So far, drivers have registered 78 this year. Between the lines, part of why mopeds are popular, especially for couriers and food delivery workers, is they hit a street sweet spot. They're faster than e-bikes, but not as expensive or regulated as motorcycles. Says unregistered motorbike drivers are becoming a serious and growing problem in the U.S., whether they're here legally or not. But the issue becomes even more concerning when those unfamiliar with our laws or unable to read English are behind the wheel of a motorbike or any vehicle, for that matter. Yep. That is a little bit of a problem. So anyway, that's what this article is about, is illegals basically riding mopeds all over the place, and especially in D.C., I guess. So, pretty odd, but I guess that's what's happening. First things, follow the money to the after party. Says secular news outlets from NPR to the New York Times are hailing Tim Alberta's new book. Never heard of him, but it's called The Kingdom, the Power, and the Glory, for furthering the popular thesis that evangelicals have abandoned themselves to political idolatry. By political idolatry, they mean political conservatism. As neither Alberta's book nor the many prestige outlets enthusing over it have a word of criticism for Christians who advance far left-wing causes. However, a curious passage in the book suggests that those leveling this charge may be mostly guilty of infecting the church with partisanship. Alberta reports on the after party, a forthcoming program led by Duke Divinity consulting professor Curtis Chang and developed with the New York Times columnist David French and Christianity Today editor Chief Russell Moore. The program offers pastors and small groups a curriculum, quote, reframing Christian political identity from today's divisive partisan options, end quote. The reason I'm bringing this up is because apparently the Rockefellers have, the Rockefeller philanthropy advisors have a vested interest in this book. It says the Rockefellers' interest in bankrolling the Bible studies is a red flag. You don't say. Thought that was really strange. Never heard of the Rockefellers bankrolling Bible studies, but it's because they have a political agenda. They're trying to label Christian conservatives as political ideologues. Political idolatry is what they're saying. Trying to convince other believers that, in fact, there's something wrong with being conservative, I guess. Anyway, I thought that was kind of interesting. That's on firstthings.com. Never heard of that website. From Revolver again, Tucker believes Speaker Johnson is being blackmailed. Well, in other news, The Sun came up today. Says the U.S. is facing a crisis on multiple fronts. We're dealing with an invasion at our border, crime rates are skyrocketing, and inflation has gotten so bad that putting food on the table has become a struggle for many. On top of that, people's utility bills have doubled, wages are stagnant, and the economy under Joe is just limping along. And in the midst of all this chaos, what's the response from our lawmakers? They're funneling billions of our tax dollars into Ukraine, one of the world's most corrupt nations. Speaker Johnson has turned out to be one of the most significant betrayals and disappointments to emerge from the swamp in a long time. Spitting in the face of his voters. Same Shiite, different day. Kevin McJohnson. I like that. So anyways, yep. That's why he came out of nowhere. They have blackmail on him. They put him in place just like they do all those people. Anyway, I think Tucker's probably right. Bridges reopen after 26 barges broke loose and floated down the Ohio River, damaging a marina. A pair of Pittsburgh area bridges reopened Saturday, so this is apparently more infrastructure assaults. After 26 barges broke loose the previous night and floated uncontrolled down the Ohio River, damaging a marina. The bridges, about 2.5 miles apart, were closed after the barges, most of which were loaded with dry cargo, broke free after record-breaking rainfall. So the rain did it. The rain caused the barges to float away. I don't think I've ever heard of that. Anyway, he says the McKees Rocks Bridge reopens Saturday after shutdown out of an abundance of caution. Yeah, because they don't want it to turn into the Key Bridge, I suppose. So it says, we have no reports on the West End Bridge being hit. West End Bridge was closed. So yeah, 26 barges just all of a sudden broke loose and started floating freely down the Ohio River. But it was all just a coincidence. All right, technocracy.news. Got a few articles to look at here, at least the headlines. Technocracy, the science of social engineering, and the end of debt. As more people are dancing around the topic of technocracy, more pieces of the puzzle fall into place. Personally, I take original technocracy at its word. First, it is the science of social engineering. So if you need a very short little definition of what is technocracy, that's what it is. The science of social engineering. And second, there will be no place for politics, politicians, finance, or financiers. Political systems will vanish in favor of technocratic control. If there is no private property, finance and financiers will also disappear. This is the meaning of Klaus Schwab's "you will own nothing and rent everything." But he says we'll be happy, though. Don't you believe him? Islands that climate alarmists said would soon disappear due to rising sea found to have grown in size. When Al Gore, member of the Trilateral Commission, pandered in 2006 that the seas would suddenly rise because the polar ice caps were melting, it was as ingenious, eyes-wide-open scam of global proportions. Indeed, not one prediction ever made about global warming has come true, and none will ever come true because it was fraud from the start, according to what Patrick Wood is saying here. I personally think that it is beyond global warming. I think that certain segments of the world, certain segments of, especially the eastern half of the U.S., is being kept cool on purpose. Now, whether or not it's due to, we know that the coolness is due to the chemical geoengineering, chemical ice nucleation events that they're essentially scheduling for us. That doesn't mean that there, in my opinion, doesn't mean that there aren't other heating problems, warming problems across the world. What he's saying here, though, is that it's a massive fraud, which it is a money grab. I'll give you that. It's a money grab and power grab and rights grab for sure. So they're definitely using it for all those things. So anyway, all those articles are on technocracy.news. And I wanted to play this short clip. This is, I'll probably speed it up just a little bit just so we can kind of get through it. I thought it was kind of interesting. This is about NVIDIA. And I think you'll understand once you hear it.
Let's talk about the next wave of robotics, the next wave of AI, robotics, physical AI. So far, all of the AI that we've talked about is one computer. Data comes into one computer. We take all of the data, we put it into a system like DGX, we compress it into a large language model. Trillions of tokens becomes billions of parameters. These billions of parameters becomes your AI. So I just described, in very simple terms, essentially what just happened in large language models, except the ChatGPT moment for robotics may be right around the corner. And so we've been building the end-to-end systems for robotics for some time. I'm super, super proud of the work. We have the AI system, DGX. We have the lower system, which is called AGX, for autonomous systems. The world's first robotics processor. When we first built this thing, people were, what are you guys building? It's an SoC, it's one chip, it's designed to be very low power, but it's designed for high-speed sensor processing and AI.
Things are getting crazy out there, Fanny.
Maybe they were right.
They were right.
They were right.
I can't believe it. It's actually happening.
It's actually happening.
I can't believe it. It's actually happening.
I guess I'm just not used to being chased around a mall in the middle of the night by killer robots.
All right, let's dive a little bit deeper into this world of artificial intelligence and the machinery that's behind it. Let's think of AI as this ultra-smart robot brain. It's learning at crazy speeds and tackling stuff we once thought only the human brain could tackle. You name it, AI is doing it. But here's the catch. The smarter these robot brains get, the blurrier the line between controlling them and being controlled by them becomes. Now, onto the hardware. The actual metal and microchips in these AI brains live in what we call GPUs, which traditionally have been used for video games. However, currently, GPUs, or graphics processing units, is what is used to train AI. And the leading company making these GPUs is NVIDIA. Have you heard of Moore's Law, which says technology gets twice as good every 2 years or so? But as these machines get stronger, historically, we've always feared what we can't control. Take Oppenheimer's reflection on creating the atomic bomb. He said, quote, "I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." And that fits perfectly with what's happening in the world of artificial intelligence. What you're about to watch is a presentation by the CEO of NVIDIA, who makes all of the GPUs that power all the AI on the earth. And what he reveals in this presentation shows just how far we've gone in the past few years.
The rate at which we're advancing computing is insane. Over the course of the last 8 years, we've increased computation by 1,000 times. 8 years, 1,000 times. Remember, back in the good old days of Moore's Law, it was 10x every 5 years, 100 times every 10 years, in the middle of the PC revolution. 100 times every 10 years. In the last 8 years, we've gone 1,000 times. We have 2 more years to go. The rate at which we're advancing computing is insane, and it's still not fast enough, so we built another chip. This is the most advanced GPU in the world in production today. This is Hopper. This is Hopper. Hopper changed the world. This is Blackwell. 208 billion transistors, and so you could see, I can see, there's a small line between two dies. This is the first time two dies have abutted like this together in such a way that the two dies think it's one chip. There's 10 terabytes of data between it, 10 terabytes per second, so that these two sides of the Blackwell chip have no clue which side they're on. There's no memory locality issues, no cache issues. It's just one giant chip. When we were told that Blackwell's ambitions were beyond the limits of physics, the engineer said, "So what?" And so this is what happened. And so this is the Blackwell chip, and it goes into two types of systems. The first one is form-fit-function compatible to Hopper. And so you slide out Hopper and you push in Blackwell. That's the reason why one of the challenges of ramping is going to be so efficient. There are installations of Hoppers all over the world, and the same infrastructure, same design, the power, the electricity, the thermals, the software, identical, push it right back. And so this is a Hopper version for the current HGX configuration. The second Hopper looks like this. Now this is a prototype board, and this is a fully functioning board, and I'll just be careful here. This right here is, I don't know, $10 billion. The second one's 5. It gets cheaper after that. So the way it's going to go to production is like this one here. 2 Blackwell chips and 4 Blackwell dies connected to a Grace CPU. The Grace CPU has a super fast chip-to-chip link. What's amazing is this computer is the first of its kind where this much computation fits into this small of a place, but we need a whole lot of new features in order to push the limits beyond, if you will, the limits of physics. And so one of the things that we did was we invented another transformer engine. And so this new transformer engine, we have a 5th generation NVLink. It's now twice as fast as Hopper, but very importantly, it has computation in the network. And the reason for that is because when you have so many different GPUs working together, we have to share our information with each other. We have to synchronize and update each other. Having extraordinarily fast links and being able to do mathematics right in the network allows us to essentially amplify even further. So even though it's 1.8 terabytes per second, it's effectively higher than that. And so it's many times that of Hopper. Overall, compared to Hopper, it is 2.5 times the FP8 performance for training per chip. It also has this new format called FP6, so that even though the computation speed is the same, the amount of parameters you can store in the memory is now amplified. FP4 effectively doubles the throughput. This is vitally important for inference. The amount of energy we save, the amount of networking bandwidth we save, the amount of wasted time we save will be tremendous. The future is generative, which is the reason why we call it generative AI, which is the reason why this is a brand new industry. The way we compute is fundamentally different. We created a processor for the generative AI era. And one of the most important parts of it is content token generation. We call it, this format is FP4. That's a lot of computation. 5x the token generation, 5x the inference capability of Hopper seems like enough. But why stop there? And so we would like to have a bigger GPU, even bigger than this one. And so we decided to scale it. So we built another chip. This chip is just an incredible chip. We call it the NVLink switch. It's 50 billion transistors. It's almost the size of Hopper all by itself. This switch chip has 4 NVLinks in it, each 1.8 terabytes per second. What is this chip for? If we were to build such a chip, we can have every single GPU talk to every other GPU at full speed at the same time. That's insane. And as a result, you can build a system that looks like this. This is what a DGX looks like now. Remember, just 6 years ago, I delivered the first DGX-1 to OpenAI. That DGX, by the way, was 170 teraflops. That's 0.17 petaflops. So this is 720. And so this is now 720 petaflops, almost an exaflop for training, and the world's first 1 exaflops machine in one rack. Just so you know, there are only a couple, 2, 3 exaflops machines on the planet as we speak. And so this is an exaflops AI system in one single rack. Well, let's take a look at the back of it. So this is what makes it possible. That's the back, the DGX NVLink spine. 130 terabytes per second goes through the back of that chassis. That is more than the aggregate bandwidth of the internet. We could basically send everything to everybody within a second. And let's talk about the next wave of robotics, the next wave of AI, robotics, physical AI. So far, all of the AI that we've talked about is one computer. Data comes into one computer. We take all of the data, we put it into a system like DGX, we compress it into a large language model. Trillions of tokens becomes billions of parameters. These billions of parameters becomes your AI. So I just described in very simple terms, essentially what just happened in large language models, except the ChatGPT moment for robotics may be right around the corner. And so we've been building the end-to-end systems for robotics for some time. I'm super, super proud of the work. We have the AI system, DGX. We have the lower system, which is called AGX for autonomous systems, the world's first robotics processor. When we first built this thing, people were, what are you guys building? It's an SoC, it's one chip, it's designed to be very low power, but it's designed for high-speed sensor processing and AI. And so if you want to run transformers in a car or anything that moves, we have the perfect computer for you. It's called the Jetson. And so the DGX on top for training the AI, the Jetson is the autonomous processor, and in the middle, we need another computer. We need a simulation engine that represents the world digitally for the robot, so that the robot has a gym to go learn how to be a robot. We call that virtual world Omniverse. And the computer that runs Omniverse is called OVX. And OVX, the computer itself, is hosted in the Azure cloud. Okay? And so basically, we built these 3 things, these 3 systems. On top of it, we have algorithms for every single one. Now, I'm going to show you one super example of how AI and Omniverse are going to work together. The example I'm going to show you is kind of insane, but it's going to be very, very close to tomorrow. It's a robotics building. This robotics building is called a warehouse. Inside the robotics building are going to be some autonomous systems. Some of the autonomous systems are going to be called humans, and some of the autonomous systems are going to be called forklifts. And these autonomous systems are going to interact with each other, of course, autonomously, and it's going to be overlooked upon by this warehouse to keep everybody out of harm's way. The warehouse is essentially an air traffic controller. And whenever it sees something happening, it will redirect traffic and give new waypoints, just new waypoints to the robots and the people, and they'll know exactly what to do. This warehouse, this building, you can also talk to. Of course you could talk to it. Hey, and all of this is running in real time. What about all the robots? All of those robots you were seeing just now, they're all running their own autonomous robotic stack. Let's talk about robotics. Everything that moves will be robotic. There's no question about that. It's safer, it's more convenient, and one of the largest industries is going to be automotive. Beginning of next year, we will be shipping in Mercedes, and then shortly after that, JLR. Today, we're announcing that BYD, the world's largest EV company, is adopting our next generation. It's called Thor. Thor is designed for transformer engines. Thor, our next generation AV computer, will be used by BYD. The next generation of robotics will likely be a humanoid robotics. We now have the necessary technology to imagine generalized human robotics. In a way, human robotics is likely easier, and the reason for that is because we have a lot more training data that we can provide the robots, because we are constructed in a very similar way. It could be in video form, it could be in virtual reality form. We then created a gym for it called Isaac Reinforcement Learning Gym, which allows the humanoid robot to learn how to adapt to the physical world. And then an incredible computer, the same computer that's going to go into a robotic car, this computer will run inside a humanoid robot called Thor. It's designed for transformer engines. The soul of NVIDIA, the intersection of computer graphics, physics, artificial intelligence. It all came to bear at this moment. The name of that project, General Robotics 003. I know, super good. Super good. Well, I think we have some special guests. Do we? Hey guys. So I understand you guys are powered by Jetson. They're powered by Jetsons, little Jetson robotics computers inside. They learn to walk in Isaac Sim. Ladies and gentlemen, this is orange, and this is the famous green. They are the BDX robots of Disney. Amazing Disney research. Come on, you guys, let's wrap up. Let's go. 5 things. Where are you going? What are you saying? No, it's not time to eat. It's not time to eat. I'll give you a snack in a moment. Let me finish up real quick. First, a new industrial revolution. Every data center should be accelerated. $1 trillion worth of installed data centers will become modernized over the next several years. Second, the computer of this revolution, the computer of this generation, generative AI, trillion parameters. This is what we announced to you today. This is Blackwell. Amazing, amazing processors, NVLink switches, networking systems, and the system design is a miracle. This is Blackwell, and this to me is what a GPU looks like in my mind. Everything that moves in the future will be robotic. You're not going to be the only one. And these robotic systems, whether they are humanoid, AMRs, self-driving cars, forklifts, manipulating arms, they will all need one thing. Giant stadiums, warehouses, factories. There can be factories that are robotic, manufacturing lines that are robotics, building cars that are robotics. These systems all need one thing. They need a platform, a digital twin platform, and we call that Omniverse, the operating system of the robotics world.
Well, first you had robots, then you had self-replicating robots.
There's a growing fear that robots will continue to make the human workforce obsolete.
Before the success of the ubiquitous human-sized police robots, there was a bigger bad boy on the block, the Moose.
We are able to give robots superficial responses which mimic human expression.
I saw something incredible. I saw 3 robots totally reprogrammed in 10 minutes.
We created a race of robots.
So there it is, proof that things are changing more rapidly than most people can possibly imagine. Then there's the question of what comes next in all this. Aristotle once said, knowing yourself is the beginning of wisdom. But if AI can think, decide, and maybe one day understand itself better than we do, where does that leave us? Now, let's forget about all the gadgets and gizmos powered by AI for a second, and focus on what's about to happen. As we speak, they are implanting AI into actual robots, and they're building these things right now with plans to be unleashed on humanity within a few years. This is not science fiction anymore. Just think, what's a few years ago? 2021. That was 3 years ago. In that same time period forward, we're going to see robots. We are building a world where AI might decide everything, from who might get a loan to who's fit to raise a child, even who's guilty of a crime. It's like opening Pandora's box, which, once opened, can't be closed again. But what do you think about this? I want to hear your opinion. Please put your opinion in the comments section if you haven't done so already. And don't forget to hit that like button. And until next time, thank you for watching, and God bless you all.
So, what do you think about that? I thought that was pretty wild. And did you catch what he said here? Let me go back to it. Let me play it again from right here.
NVLink switches, networking systems, and the system design is a miracle. This is Blackwell, and this to me is what a GPU looks like in my mind. Everything that moves in the future will be robotic. You're not going to be the only one.
You hear that? Everything in the future will be robotic. You're not going to be the only one. Kind of gives you a little glimpse into what they may have planned for us, huh? Well, I don't think we make it that far, personally. However, you can see what they have planned, for sure. Just reading through some of your comments, you guys have some really good comments on this video. One of the key ones here, I think, was Melinda says, "Who can make war with the beast?" So true. So true. Mushi says, "Black cube." Yeah, the computer. Yeah, I noticed that the shell, the casings for the machines were black cubes. They always are, it seems like. So were the quantum computers. The D-Wave quantum computers were as well. And that's not what we're even talking about here. These aren't even quantum. These are just, more like standard type computers. It's funny. It's all the different names like Thor and some of the different names. Jetson, I know, is one of them that he mentioned. It's like they can't really come up with anything original. And Hopper, wasn't Hopper the one of the main antagonist or protagonist heroes in Stranger Things, right? Remember Hopper? So it's pretty interesting, some of the things that was mentioned in that video, and I thought you guys would like to see it. But yeah, that was on End Times Productions, which is a really good YouTube channel for sure. So yeah, and thank you guys for the really good comments about the video as it was rolling past. All right, well, that was kind of long, but let's keep moving. U.S. House passes bill renewing warrantless surveillance under FISA Section 702 amid privacy concerns. This is on reclaimthenet.org. So, yep, renewing warrantless surveillance. So they love that. Movie industry's push for ISP site blocking legislation sparks controversy over internet censorship. So ISP site blocking. So that means your internet service provider, Comcast, whoever you guys use. At that level, they would be able to block websites and not allow you as the end user to access those websites. So movie industry is pushing for that. Why do you suppose that is? Because of so much piracy. That's partly why. But you see how these things can get out of control really, really fast. Rumble enhances user experience with new recommendation algorithm. A move to boost creator visibility and platform engagement. So for you Rumblers out there, you know who you are. Keep watching for that. Maybe you'll start seeing some more targeted videos on that platform. Things that are being recommended based on new algorithms. So we'll see. UK plans facial recognition expansion, empowering cops to scan faces in the streets. That's not good news. UK's £55.5 million push for facial recognition technology risks a profound invasion of privacy, setting a precarious precedent for surveillance overreach. I tend to think the folks in the UK will go right along with it, though, don't you? An open, interoperable alternative to big tech's algorithms and walled gardens. Take back control of your content feeds. State Department wants to use video games to tackle Ukraine, quote, disinformation. New funding for shaping online narratives. And JP Morgan Chase cashes in on customer data. JP Morgan Chase is monetizing its 80 million customers' spending data through Chase Media Solutions, enabling businesses to create targeted ads. So get ready. If you have a Chase credit card, your spending data is going to be monetized so that they can feed you targeted ads based on what you buy. Thank you, Miss Emily, for posting the band group link in both chats. Appreciate that. Yeah, if you haven't joined the band group, definitely check that out. Totally free, and we're just in there sharing information. We'll look at that a little bit closer in a minute. Shocking video claims popular U.S. ice cream treat takes 22 hours to melt. And I immediately, of course, thought probably the same thing you guys thought: chemical ice nucleation. But here's a video. Let's watch this. It's another one, but it's really short.
What you're looking at here is the aftermath of a drumstick ice cream cone that has been sitting out for 22 hours now. I set this out yesterday at 6 or 7 p.m.
Boy,
and
yummy.
It's now 4:23 p.m. the next day, and this is the outcome. If you watch my previous video, you'll see how after about 2 hours, the ice cream didn't melt at all. So this is the outcome after almost 24 hours.
24 hours later, it still looks like a drumstick. Pretty wild, huh? So that's pretty much all chemicals, if you ask me.
Your kids are eating this.
Says, just think your kids are eating this. Well, let's hope not. But yeah, that's some seriously bad stuff there. We all know there's something strange going on with our food in the United States. All you have to do is take a trip abroad, and you will instantly notice a difference in how you feel. It says most people report feeling less bloated, lighter, and more satiated. This has caused many people to wonder what on earth is going on with the food supply in America. We're inundated with processed junk food, sugar, seed oils, corn, and other fillers and preservatives, and many people are starting to feel as if they're being slowly poisoned, because we are. And things get even dicier when you compare the food scene in America to what's going on in Europe. Many of the chemical additives we use in food in the U.S. are banned in other countries due to research indicating their potential cancer-causing agents. Anyway, pretty interesting article. That's on Revolver, and we'll link to this in the Substack post that I send out tomorrow. But yeah, pretty nasty-looking stuff there on the plate. LibertyBeacon.com. We've got a few articles from that site. Harridge Atkinson asked Congress to help stop government from making journalists disclose their sources. Two of the country's top investigative reporters on Thursday urged Congress to pass legislation to protect journalists from federal government efforts compelling them to disclose their sources. Forcing reporters to disclose sources would have a crippling effect on investigative journalism. I think that's the whole reason that they're doing it. Catherine Herridge, an award-winning journalist who's worked at Fox News and CBS Snooze, told members of the House Judiciary Subcommittee on the Constitution and Limited Government. The hearing, titled Fighting for a Free Press, Protecting Journalists and Their Sources, was convened to address the federal government's infringement on the First Amendment, freedom of the press guarantees, and proposed laws to address the issue. Yeah, they need more laws to protect free speech. No, it's called the Bill of Rights. We don't need more laws. We need to obey what's already written down. Meaning the government needs to obey what's already written down, and they don't, because they're out of control. And I saw this and thought, okay, well, if you want to know who not to support, those three words kind of says it all. Zelensky backs Israel. Ukrainian president has likened Iran's tactics to those of Russia. Never mind the fact that Israel started it, accusing Tehran of threatening the Middle East. So once again, we live in an inverted world. But I thought that was kind of funny. That's on RT. And then on World, which is WNG.org, wave of Iran air attacks thwarted, says Israeli defense minister. So this is more about the Iranian attacks on Israel. And a pretty good commentary on that site. And then the People's Voice. I've got a couple articles pulled up from here. A UK doctor endorses surgery allowing patients to have both male and female genitalia. How is that even possible? Leaked messages have revealed that an NHS transgender clinic doctor has endorsed procedures that would enable patients to have both male and female genitalia. The doctor expressed his support for such procedures in unredacted leaked messages that were obtained by a British newspaper, the Daily Telegraph. Messages show that the doctors, including professor in mental health and transgender health at the University of Nottingham, are discussing and giving their support for even more radical surgical transformations that are not currently allowed by the NHS. So here's the so-called expert talking there, who looks like a caricature, him or herself. Very strange. Anyway, yeah, that's what they're planning to do, I guess. So you can have both types of sexual organs in the same person. In other words, a complete freakazoid. But by choice, I guess. People want that. Although it's probably only like, what, 0.0000001% maybe. Britain's next prime minister says the UK is willing to nuke millions of people. Next Prime Minister Keir Starmer has admitted that he would be willing to hit the nuclear button, killing millions of people if the circumstances arose. So he's a man of the people, I guess. Good to know. I'm sure that's all he really had to say to be able to get the gig. So I'm not sure how fast he's going to be brought in, but apparently Rishi Sunak is not capable of doing that. Is that right? I don't know that I buy that, but anyway, that's on the peoplesvoice.tv. And one more. Trump says everything Biden touches turns to Shiite. And that's not actually what it says, but I'm just making that up. Donald Trump slammed Biden during a massive rally in Pennsylvania Saturday night, declaring that everything he touches turns to you-know-what. Thought that was kind of funny, and that's pretty accurate, actually. Crazy stuff. Information liberation. John Hagee cheers Israel-Iran battle as Gog and Magog war. Will lobby Congress not to de-escalate. So he's all for the war. John Hagee wants to see as many people killed over there as possible, which makes him an evangelical Christian. Right-wing media see traffic plummet in wake of algorithm changes by Facebook and Google. Weird. Atlantic on Saturday ran an article boasting about right-wing media sites seeing their traffic implode due to algorithmic changes by Facebook and Google. But the joke is on them. NBC News, Biden concerned Israel is trying to drag America into a war with Iran. He's concerned. They're not wrong. Trump voices support for pro-Palestine protesters chanting Genocide Joe. So that's Joe's new nickname. Genocide Joe. Iran launches drone attack, which we've already covered. And a few more articles on here. This is on informationliberation.com. Pretty good coverage of many different things there. Now, some links that I found off of the Daily Crow website. Gateway Pundit article, breaking undercover video, CIA officer, former FBI boasts we can put anyone in jail, set them up. FBI did what we wanted with AJ, took his money away, which I mentioned all this earlier, but this is a slightly different spin on it, but that's on the Gateway Pundit. And then, let's see, from Wine Press, got several articles pulled up from here. We'll just look at the headlines, but you guys can check these articles if you're interested. Heads of World Bank and Verizon say digital IDs are part of the social contract between government and citizens. A sense of crisis is your best friend. Never let a crisis go to waste, the World Bank president said. So you can tell just from those few words what they're planning. So there's a video embedded here on this site as well. Wine Press News is where this is. U.S. Navy posts a photo of commander holding rifle with backwards scope, quickly deletes it out of embarrassment. So there it is there. I've got another article actually pulled up on that. We'll come back to that. Pretty funny. Credit card delinquencies, worst ever in history, according to Federal Reserve. But I thought it was the best economy ever, wasn't it? That's what they keep telling us. At the same time, buy now, pay later apps have continued to explode in popularity. Well, I would think so, because later might mean never. Anyway, that's on Wine Press. And then one more. Disney theme parks to test facial recognition entrance. So if you're planning to go to Disney, you might want to reconsider. Recent Disneyland resort in California is trialing a new facial recognition gate entry, which is on top of their Magic Band Plus bracelets that utilize RFID technology to scan the wristband and permit access to parts of the park. My guess is, though, that human traffickers probably don't need to worry about it, though. Just a guess. You're totally welcome to come in and traffic people and kidnap kids at Disney World and Disneyland. I'm thinking. Maybe I'm wrong. But yeah, test facial recognition at the Disney parks. So you're basically a prisoner while you're there. I mean, if you're a regular, honest type of person. If you're a criminal, though, you get a pass. That's typically what happens. Biological male athlete smokes female competitors in 200-meter race. At the same time, he would have placed 61st amongst other boys. So if he would have been competing against his own actual biological sex, he would have landed in 61st place. Not first place. Yep. So obviously it's only for people who can't succeed in their own world. They have to go co-opt other people's worlds. Sydney mass murderer who killed 7 in Sydney Mall stabbing attack was a male escort who had a history of mental illness. But it's okay if he has a really long knife and goes around and stabs people in the shopping mall. A mass stabbing took place on Saturday at the Westfield Shopping Center in Bondi Junction in Sydney. Terrorists murdered 6 people, including at least 5 women and 1 man. In the deadly attack, authorities said they are unsure of the killer's motive. Well, he was crazy. We'll start there. The 40-year-old was stopped in the knifing attack at the Westfield Shopping Center when a police inspector shot him. So, once again, it wasn't good vibes that stopped him. No, it was a gun in the hands of a police inspector in this case. Police inspector shot him after he turned and raised a knife. They just said, run, run, run. Somebody's been stabbed. Says one witness told the ABC TV in Australia the attacker was walking really calmly like he was having an ice cream in a park. Then he went up the escalators, and probably within about a minute, we heard 3 gunshots. Police wouldn't identify the man yet, and we're still working to determine his motivation. So, there he is there. Anyway, yeah, I don't know that you guys heard about that, but that was in Australia. Very strange that happened there, but I guess he couldn't get his hands on a gun, so yeah, knife's the next best thing, apparently. Israel and Iran, what now? Israeli response is expected in the next 48 hours, so here we go again. U.S. fears to be dragged into massive regional war. So we will see. We will see what happens, how it plays out. But that's on the Gateway Pundit. And this one too, video, Iranian parliament celebrates missile attack on Israel, chanting death to Israel from the floor of the parliament. Well, I don't agree with that. I think that we should have peace. How about that for a crazy notion? And how about we don't have any death? But yeah, they're on there chanting death to America, death to Israel. But, I mean, I get it. I know why they're saying it. It's because American empire is responsible for many of their people dying. Peter Sweden says, what? New EU rule bans garden bonfires. It's now gone a few years since the British left the EU, in part because they didn't like all the restrictions and rules that they were coming up with. Now there's a new rule. People will be banned from starting bonfires in their garden to burn garden waste such as grass, leaves, and sticks. This is because the new law requires that food and organic waste be sorted and recycled. Meaning that people who are tending their garden will have to either compost their garden waste or deliver it in for recycling. Cannot burn it. Yes. Global warming, right? Euthanasia campaign now admits when people die, it saves money. We have to remove the stigma between life and death, they say. Remove the stigma. The campaign for euthanasia has been bathed in altruistic claims for several years already. It relieves the terminally ill of pain. It allows them to die with dignity. It gives them control over their demise, which they otherwise might not have in a hospital or hospice. It is a right they should be allowed to exercise and more, according to what they say. Or just people that they decide they don't like. Time to be euthanized. So, that's on the Gateway Pundit. Hairy-chested trans mayor in California faces recall amid rampant homelessness and crime, and blames the effort to recall him on transphobic bullies. So this guy is apparently a mayor. Calexico mayor. Raul Urania, I guess, 26. And we can tell why he got elected. I mean, obviously he's transgender, so he gets to win. Is now facing a significant political backlash as the city grapples with social issues. I would say with wokeism, wouldn't you? After his transition following a 2022 re-election victory, the mayor has become the subject of a recall vote. So this mayor, who openly embraces all pronouns with a preference for she, this is a she, has notably shifted his office attire from traditional suits to low-cut dresses, proudly showcasing a still hairy chest and declaring himself sexy as HE double hockey sticks. But under his leadership, it says his, so they've already misgendered him. Under his leadership, the city of Calexico has experienced rampant crime rates and the emergence of homeless encampments that have left the downtown area in distress. But it's okay because he's gay and he is a trans person. So whatever he does is totally fine, according to California at least. And then this is more on the barges. 26 barges break loose, causing the bridge closures and damage to a marina on the Ohio River. Yeah? Because of rain. Rain did it. Biden's schedule for the next 9 days. Are you ready? Here's his heavy schedule. 1 day working at the White House, then 3 days campaigning in Pennsylvania, and then 5 days vacationing in Delaware. That's his next 9 days. Could you imagine if any Republican president, conservative president tried that? But nope, this guy gets a pass on everything. Speaking of class, high class, Chief star Travis Kelce, you know, what's-her-face's boyfriend, Taylor's boyfriend, Travis Kelce chugs and slams a beer on stage after receiving his diploma from the University of Cincinnati. Now that is nothing but class right there. Way to go, T. Swift. I bet you're proud. Yeah, Salty Cracker says, trashy. Yep. Anyway. I mean, seriously. I just wanted to bring that to your attention. I knew you guys would appreciate that one. And speaking of more trash, Don Lemon, who described white men as America's biggest terror threat, marries one, meaning a white man, in New York. So he's describing his own wife, who's actually a guy, as America's biggest terror threat. And we don't live in the end times. Former CNN host Don Lemon is now a married man. The 58-year-old who recently launched his own eponymous show tied the knot to his partner Tim Malone at a wedding in New York City. Perfect. Too bad the giant wave didn't come along at the same time. On Saturday, and made every effort to let the world know by splashing photos of the ceremony across social media, because he's woke and we should love him. Yes, so says, however, many netizens could not help but notice that Malone is a white man, which is very ironic given that Lemon spent most of his career at CNN attacking white people. His most famous quote was back in 2018 when he warned that white men represented the biggest terror threat, quote unquote, in modern America. But I guess it's okay if it's your significant other, whatever you want to call it. Anyway, that was the last article on Gateway Pundit. And then, let's see, activistpost.com says over 1,300 layoffs hit logistics companies across the U.S. Wow. Once again, Bidenomics, right? Bidenomics at work. Let's see, why climate change court cases are on the rise. Just looking at a few of the headlines here. Do the right thing. Assange supporters urge as Biden mulls dropping the case. When has Biden ever done the right thing? Google bans blocking news from California outlets over state bill. Google has temporarily blocked access to California-based news outlets for some state residents. Wow. Technocracy. Anyway, that's on activistpost.com. Now, let's see here. This is an update courtesy of my friend Mushi. She's here tonight, I think. And she sent this to me earlier in the week. This is on Daily Mail, but I wanted to bring this to your attention because I mentioned this, I think, just last week. And was kind of chuckling about this. Humiliation for Saudi Arabia as it's forced to scale back $1.5 trillion plans for the 106-mile-long The Line to just 1.5 miles, with workers already being laid off at a desert construction site. So this is just dated a few days ago, and I literally was just talking about this in the last broadcast out of nowhere, and now they're having to scale it back. So it's not 106 miles now. The plans are for 1.5 miles. I would say that's an epic fail. Saudi Arabia has been forced to scale back its $1.5 trillion plans for a 106-mile linear desert megacity. No, it's a smart city, according to reports, in a humiliating climb down for the kingdom. And if you don't remember, this is what we're talking about here. This is the site, The Line. New wonders for the world, the future of urban living, which of course is nothing but a smart city, a huge, glassy, and sparkly prison is what it is. Says a cognitive city stretching across 170 kilometers. No, not anymore. From the epic mountains of Neom across inspirational desert valleys to the beautiful Red Sea, a mirrored architectural masterpiece towering 500 meters above sea level, but a land-saving 200 meters wide. So it's only 2 football fields wide, roughly. Which, that's not very wide. But 106 miles long, supposedly. The line redefines the concept of urban development and what cities of the future would look like. No roads, cars, or emissions. It will run on 100% renewable energy, and 95% of land will be preserved for nature. Yeah, that's until all the birds start smacking into the sides of this megalith. I mean, it's going to be as tall as the Empire State Building for 106 miles, and they don't think it will affect the wildlife. And it's funny, though. interesting, at least, that is actually brought up in this article. And apparently part of the reason why they have made them scale it back. It's a humiliating climb down for the kingdom. The line, part of the country's audacious and futuristic NEOM project, was meant to be home to around 1.5 million residents by the end of the decade, with plans to ultimately increase its full capacity to 9 million people. That was the goal. Now, according to people familiar with the project, the development will only stretch 1.5 miles and house fewer than 300,000 residents, or prisoners, I would say, by 2030, according to a new report from Bloomberg, citing sources close to the project and documents. As a result of the reduction of the construction of the line, at least one contractor has started dismissing workers it employs on the site. And then here's some of the concept images here. You can see how massive it is. And then it mentions the birds here in a sec. Which is funny, I literally just mentioned that last week, and this hadn't even been posted for not until a couple days later. The line was the jewel in the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman's Vision 2030 project, which was set in motion to diversify his country's oil-dependent economy as well as its society and culture and improve the image it projects on the world. So he was doing it because all of his oil exploration and all the trillions of dollars he's made selling oil was not quite exactly what he wanted out on social media, I guess. So he decided to build this mega city. It says, however, unlike city sprawls we are accustomed to today, the vast metropolis would have contained two mirrored structures, each rising 500 feet above sea level, taller than the Empire State Building, that would stretch out across the desert. At just 200 yards wide, the line was intended to be Saudi Arabia's answer to unchecked and wasteful urban sprawl, layering homes, schools, and parks on top of each other, and what planners term as zero-gravity urbanism. How about that for a keyword for the day? Zero-gravity urbanism. Read technocracy, huh? Promotional materials say residents will have all their daily needs reachable within a 5-minute walk. Sounds like a smart city. While also having access to other perks like outdoor skiing facilities and high-speed rail with end-to-end transit of 20 minutes. Now, if they put the rail in, it's only going to go for a mile and a half, so it'll be like, 10 seconds. 10-second ride. For a train to travel 106 miles in 20 minutes, it would need to be able to travel at least 318 miles per hour. The site will be powered by 100% renewable energy and featured a year-round temperate microclimate with natural ventilation. Yeah, but you won't be able to get out. That's my guess. So you can see some of these crazy pictures here that they have, which we went through that last week as well. Birds flying into tall windows is a serious problem, and this is a building that is 500 meters high going across Saudi Arabia with windmills on top. It's also kind of like a mirror, so you don't really see it, Sutherland, who led the study, added. So unless they do something about it, there's a serious risk that there could be lots of damage to migratory birds. Nightingales, wheatears, larks, sandgrouse, and turtle doves are all species of birds that use the migratory route, which could be affected. Yes, but it's only saving the planet. It says other species known to travel that way include the Egyptian vulture and Saker falcon, both of which are endangered globally. So they're going to have endangered species type of bird smashing into these things. Wow. Anyway, just thought you guys would like a little update on NEOM. Now here's the picture I mentioned earlier. U.S. Navy posted this picture, then deleted it. Let's look at the comments, shall we? Ladies and gentlemen, may I present the U.S. Navy. Now it's got the guy that they're showing here. It says, oh, it's beautiful. It says, bro holds the weapon like the prosecutor who wanted to send Kyle Rittenhouse to jail. The dude pointed a gun at an entire courtroom. There he is. I remember that. It says, it amazes me. This is the commanding officer of the USS McCain. That makes sense. He does not know how to hold a gun. He does not know how to shoulder the stock. He does not know how to properly use the scope to acquire a sight picture, and even worse, the optic is on backward and the covers look to be on. He also does not know that the vertical foregrip placement makes 0 sense. He does not know how to keep his elbow down while shooting. So there's all of the things that they've highlighted here in the picture. Bruh, I like that. Anyway, it says the CO is just spraying bullets blindly into the ocean like a kid in a candy store. My man says teenagers in Kenosha know more about shooting guns. So there's Rittenhouse there. Anyway, thought that was kind of funny. That's on Not to Be. And I posted this on my Facebook page. I thought you guys would appreciate it. We'll get this one out on the live stream too. Electric vehicle owners should only be allowed to charge their cars using solar and wind power. Otherwise, it's just pretend. And that's so true. So think about that. Remember that maybe when you get somebody telling you how you need to have an electric car. You say, nope. I will get an electric car when you start charging your car with only solar and wind power. Then we'll talk. Mushi says maybe the line is just going to take a little longer. Yeah, I don't know. I thought that was an interesting article, so thanks for sending that to me. Okay, InfoWars article I found. Watch says Bill Cooper reveals Israel's true purpose is to usher in world government. Israel was created as the instrument to bring about a war that will be so terrible, where nuclear weapons will be used so that people will get down on their knees and beg for no more war, says Behold a Pale Horse author, Bill Cooper. Former intelligence officer and author of the globalist expose Behold a Pale Horse, broke down what he claimed was the true purpose of Israel's founding in 1947. I would say 47, 48. Israel was created as the instrument to bring about a war that will be so terrible, where nuclear weapons will be used so that people will get down on their knees and beg for no more war, he said in a 1992 interview, and it's embedded here on the page. And that sounds about right. And they're really working hard on that right now. That's what it sounds like to me. That's what it looks like. And I saw this article with Jesus on the white horse holding the American flag and holding a machine gun. And thought, okay, what is this about? Evangelical Christians praying for Armageddon and supporting the death penalty for, quote, anti-Semitism. Yeah, so that picture kind of sums it up, doesn't it? It's what they actually believe. And then here's another article. Jesus would be labeled as anti-Semitic today because he attacked the Jews and warned his followers about their evil ways. World War III update alert. Iranian attacks in Syria and possibly other places against Israel are imminent. So that's our favorite word for the day, imminent. Anyway, so these are all on vaccineimpact.com. Some interesting articles over there. Geoengineeringwatch.org for April 13th, which was yesterday. Sulfur atmosphere, question mark. Injecting sulfur into the atmosphere could pose dangerous risks. New from Science Alert. But is it just sulfur? Hundreds of precipitation tests reveal numerous other elements coming down through our breathable air column. Elements like aluminum, barium, strontium, manganese, polymer fibers, surfactants, and graphene. What could go wrong? Now let's add this headline from Yahoo News. World's population to fall for the first time since the Black Death. Though official sources would never acknowledge it, these two headlines actually inseparable? What other elements might the geoengineers be injecting into our skies? How exponential might this equation become, and how soon? That is from Mr. Dane on geoengineeringwatch.org. So yeah, feel free to have a listen to this if you've missed it. It's another good broadcast, and it's available on the website here as well as his YouTube channel, BitChute, and Rumble, and then also on Spotify. And this week, it happens to be the same exact broadcast on all three or four platforms there. The 3 video platforms as well as Spotify. So yeah, we didn't edit anything out this week. All right, so and then this is the scheduled weather coming up here for April 20 through 24. So it looks like below normal for where I am, above normal for out west. And you can see what they have planned. The NOAA scheduled weather. Always like to take a look at that because it keeps flip-flopping back and forth. Next week we'll look at it, and it will probably be, go back to it here. Next week we'll look at it, and it'll probably be the opposite. It'll be above in the east and below in the west. Keeps going back and forth. All right, this is a video on Israel 365 News that might be worth watching. It says, more red heifer lies, but this time they have proof. And this guy here that's pictured is the guy that runs this website, Israel 365 News. And I watched an interesting video about this video, and he does make some good points in it, but I thought some of it was a little bit more clickbaity along those lines. But this is kind of one of the things that I wanted to mention tonight. I don't know that I necessarily believe this. I do think that whether it's fake news or real news, I do think that the news is being put out to drum up people's interest and for clicks and so forth. But here's what I found on Twitter earlier. I think it was a couple days ago now. Alert, the fanatical Zionists from Temple Mount organization have announced that April 22nd, which is the start of Passover, is their day to slaughter the much vaunted red heifer in Jerusalem to realize their version of the end times, messianic prophecy. And this paper here is supposed to be them asking the police or whomever, the police or the government, I suppose, probably just the police, for permission to do the sacrifice. This is what it is. However, if you go into this, well, this is one of the posts here. This is one of the responses to that. Temple Mount organizations officially submitted a request to the Israeli police to allow the introduction of an altar and knives to slaughter red cows in Al-Aqsa Mosque on April 22nd. I think that's all nonsense. Total lie. And the reason I think that is because, first of all, it says introduction of an altar and knives. They're not going to, when they do this, if they do this soon, all they need is a pile of wood, a pyre. They don't need an altar to do this, and it won't be in the Al-Aqsa Mosque. I mean, that would be like the last place it could be. And it's not going to be on Temple Mount. That's ridiculous. It would be, if they're going to do it, it would be on a pile of wood and over in the garden area, right? There was an English version here that had a translation of all of this different Hebrew information. Of course, it looks backwards because it is backwards. I mean, they literally read and write the opposite, so from right to left. But apparently, this has to do with them requesting to the police to be able to allow this sacrifice to take place. But it could be for some other sort of sacrifice. It could be for, lamb or lambs or something like that. Who knows how it will actually get used? The dates do appear to be correct on this report. Dates and times are listed, start and end times. And yes, it is the 22nd. So that is probably real, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's for the red heifers. It could be for whatever other animal sacrifices they're going to do, or whether it's lambs or I'm not sure. But I just thought it was kind of interesting. There is definitely people out there promoting this, that they're going to sacrifice these red heifers on Passover and so forth. And maybe they do, but maybe they don't. Maybe they're going to wait for this to all blow over. Because what I found out is they have until October or November this year, somewhere in there, where the cows would be too old by that point. But they still have, basically 6 months to do this. So I would say that most likely this will all blow over and nothing will happen on April 22nd is my guess. Even though this information's come out, I'm not sure that it's entirely necessarily part of the red heifer idea here. This might be, just whatever other animals they're planning to use in the Passover situation. I heard they were planning to do it during the eclipse in the Mount of Olives. Yeah, Verb Homefront says. Yeah, Mount of Olives. That's what I was trying to think of. That's where it's supposed to be. And this guy right here does confirm that it's on the Mount of Olives if and when it happens, and that it would be on a pile of wood, not on that altar that they show, that big white metal-looking altar. That they don't need that. So, I don't know why they would even need to make a big deal about it. I'm sure it would come out once it happens, but why wouldn't they try and do it in secret too? I mean, who knows? So anyway, there's a lot there on Israel 365 News with that video, and then also on these Twitter posts that I have showed you guys. So I'll link to all these in the Substack post that I send out tomorrow. So anyway, let's watch another video, and we'll come back here in a minute, and we'll talk a little bit more. So here's one that I found that I thought was kind of interesting. Check this one out.
On January 10th of 1963, 45 current communist goals were submitted to the congressional record. Number 13 was, do away with loyalty oaths. 60 years later, on the very same day, Biden, Obrador, and Trudeau met in Mexico City for the Declaration of North America, which states a plan to unify North America under the ideas of diversity, climate change, migration, health, and regional security. The beginnings of a North American Union, which is a step towards a one-world government. According to law, elected officials must swear an oath that they will support, defend, and bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And through the Freedom of Information Act, U.S. Attorney Todd Callender, along with his team at Project Proper Oath, found that not a single member of the existing cabinet has a valid oath of office. U.S. Secretary of the Treasury Janet Yellen has no oath of office. U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin has no oath of office and has also failed to register as a foreign agent, which is required due to serving on the boards and conducting international business with Raytheon, Nucor, and Tenet Healthcare. U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland has no oath of office. U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken has no oath of office. U.S. Secretary of Homeland Security Alejandro Mayorkas has no oath of office. U.S. Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg has no oath of office. U.S. Secretary of Health and Human Services Xavier Becerra, responsible for declaring a national emergency during COVID, has no oath of office. Former Director of the Centers for Disease Control Rochelle Walensky had no oath of office. U.S. Special Counsel Jack Smith, responsible for investigating the January 6th U.S. Capitol attack, has no oath of office. U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia Matthew Graves, Chief Prosecutor of Jan 6ers, has no oath of office. Vice President of the United States Kamala Harris has no oath of office. Within 30 days of appointment to public office, all public officials are legally required to have a signed and notarized copy of their oath of office. And it appears as if no elected officials in the federal government have one. They are either non-existent, incomplete, or fraudulent. The fraudulent ones are missing signatures, are not notarized, and in most of them, the words, "So help me God," are in all caps. In the U.S. Constitution, "So help me God" is not in all caps. And this matters, as many have been telling us for decades, including the great Jordan Maxwell.
Today, the entire world of mankind operates under a world law, which is referred to as the law of the high seas or international maritime admiralty. When you were born, you came out of your mother's water. Since you came out of your mother's water, you are a maritime product. This is why, when you were born, the dock has to sign your birth certificate. The Maritime Admiralty Manifest showing that your mother brought you into the world and you were going to make money. Anything in this country, if it's a lawful legal document of any kind, your name must be, according to maritime law, be in all capital letters. Why? Because you do not own your body. You do not own yourself. All capital letters name implies that you are a maritime admiralty product. You are not a human. You're not a living entity. You're a product. You're a living entity person. The actual you is represented under law by upper and lowercase name. So you are a corporation whether you know it or not. But you are merely a subsidiary of a larger corporation called United States. This is the way the law works.
Reporting for InfoWars, this is Greg Reese.
Wow, how about that? And I knew a lot of that stuff, but it's pretty good just to hear it. I guess I didn't know about the birth and the mother's water and that bit, but I knew about the capital letters versus upper and lowercase and stuff. But yeah, it's neat to see a video where it's kind of all in one place. And then you guys have most likely heard about Todd Callender and his team's research into the oaths and the fact that the Biden administration, none of those people have taken oaths. So what's that tell you? I guess they assume that they can't be held liable. They can't be held accountable for anything. So this is one other video I wanted to show just a little bit of, and we can't show the whole thing just because it's pretty long, but it's called 2025, Former InfoWars Contributor Reveals Dangerous Predictions and Deceptions Coming Next Year. And what caught my attention was that it's all about 2025. And I will link to this full video in my Substack post. So be watching for that when I send it out on Tuesday. And in the meantime, let's take a look, just a few minutes of this, and I think you'll think it's pretty interesting as well.
When Alice A. Bailey says that the externalization of the hierarchy is going to happen, she said specifically that it's going to be, the date will have been set by 2025 for the first stage of the externalization of the hierarchy. That's a direct quote from her book, The Externalization of the Hierarchy. And what is she talking about? The hierarchy. She says the masters will walk openly in the visible plane of existence among man. And that the externalization, in other words, the unveiling, the uncloaking of that demonic hierarchy is going to be beginning in 2025. The deception that Roger Monroe's satanic high priest told him is the grand deception that he says people are going to eat this up, is demon spirits declaring themselves in person, appearing and declaring themselves to be beings, inhabitants of other worlds. All of the alien hype and the Vatican saying we would baptize aliens. You know, the Vatican, if the Pope is putting this out, you got to get your radar up and your red flags up and be discerning by the word of God. When you have Hillary Clinton showing so much interest in aliens, and then all of a sudden, over the last year or so, it's hearings in Congress, and no, we have not ruled out that these unmanned aerial vehicles, these UFOs, are extraterrestrial. They've never talked like this. Why are they promoting and pushing this concept? A grand deception is on the way. So when Bailey talks about demon spirits, the masters walking among men, the direct quote is, she says, it will be possible for the hierarchy to externalize itself and function openly upon the physical plane. The masters will walk openly among men. This could have that fake alien element to it. It could have other manifestations and expressions as well, but that's one to definitely keep our eyes open for. But she called it 2025. She said, we've got to do a lot of propaganda, that's her word, leading into 2025 for progress and getting this whole religious and economic and educational propaganda in place. And then she says the presence with a capital P, the masters with a capital M, will be able to be attained in this, our day.
Well, welcome to this Band.video exclusive interview sponsored by Infowars.com and InfoWarsStore.com. I'm Brian Wilson of Red Pill TV, and today we're going to be talking with Scott Ritzema of Belt of Truth Ministries. Scott Scott Ritzema has lectured at over 400 churches in the past 12 years about social control and end-time scenarios. He's also a former contributor for Infowars.com, working closely with Paul Joseph Watson. The first series of his that I saw, and one that I've heard the most about from others, is his Media on the Brain series, which can be found on his YouTube and on beltoftruthministries.org. If you want to know the science behind entertainment, social media's effect on the brain, especially the brain of your children, then I highly recommend you check out his Media on the Brain series. However, we're going to be talking today about something a little bit different. We're going to be talking about the future and 2025 and what could possibly happen then. He's preparing a presentation, a series, seminar called I Will Not Be Moved, The Coming Crisis 2025 to 2030. Now, I've linked the reports below this video that we've done here on 2025, and specifically on Deagle.com, which Scott Ritzema is familiar with. Now, this website predicted in 2017 that by 2025, the US's population would go from 327 million to 100 million, while Russia, China, India population just continued on a gradual increase. In the UK's population, France and Germany and other Western countries' population were basically dwindled down to below half of their current population. This is very alarming. The groups that fund this research included the NSA, the World Bank, United Nations, CIA, International Monetary Fund, and NATO. So what do they know that they're not telling us, Scott Ritzema? And in your research with Deagle.com and your other things you've looked into, what have you discovered about these developments for 2025?
Yeah, as you keep your eye on multiple different sources, you keep getting this same year, this same time period, 2025 and the years that follow. Deagle.com, that being a key factor that many people have noticed for many years now. What's going on with that predicted massive population drop? Another key source is probably the top occultist of the 20th century. You know her as UN acolyte and founder of Lucifer's Trust publishing house, Alice A. Bailey. A lot of people aren't aware that for a number of times, and for almost 100 years now, back when she was writing, she targeted 2025. So we can talk about Alice Bailey, we can talk about Deagle, we can talk about Martin Armstrong's cycles. He's been a contributor on Band.video, on Infowars, and his AI for 40 years now, his computer, as he calls it, has been pointing to this same time period. So we can talk about his cycles, and a lot of this goes to the cycles view of history. My background is as a history teacher. My graduate studies were in history, political science, economics, national security. And so when you look at this from a scholarly standpoint, you get into things like the fourth turning. Probably Neil Howe is the best scholar on cycles theory. So we can look at fourth turning. And then also this guy, Peter Singer, not the one you know of as the eugenicist, what he might have had to do with the video game industry and scripts that were given pointing to 2025. You got a Joel Skousen, again, another Infowars contributor and guest, has been saying for many years that while people were maybe expecting giant war, World War III type of scenarios prior to the time in which we live now, he was always saying, you know, China's weapon systems and technological advancements aren't going to be online and ready for them to launch into such a conflict until the latter half of the 2020s. In other words, 2025 to 2030. There are world system theorists as well as long cycle theorists that you can look at targeting this period as well. So it's not just one-off, you know, one person said this. And Deagle, by the way, is a major player. They were a contributor to Stratfor. They were cited by Stratfor. If you don't know who that is, that's a huge, massive intelligence company, intelligence player in the global national security scene. So yeah, a lot on 2025 when you really keep your eyes open. We can dive into those as you'd like.
Here's some more information from Deagle.com. They predicted the United States defense budget would go from $637 billion to $32 billion. The United Kingdom's defense budget from $56 billion, which is modest compared to ours, to $1.4 Just a fraction of it. France followed in similar fashion, 58 billion to 11 billion, and Germany 43 billion to 2.9 billion. Now, on the contrary, China's defense budget goes from 226 billion to 310 billion, while Russia goes from 79 billion to 186 billion, more than doubling. India 59 billion to 110 billion, Brazil 27 billion to 38 billion. So while the Western countries suffer their defense, almost like what happened to Germany and Japan after World War II, where they weren't allowed to have a military, you see this future predicted where all the Western NATO countries basically have their defense budgets taken away, and the BRICS nations have an incredible defense budget. Why do you think they're making this prediction on Deagle.com?
You know, in the fine print, they talk about it as a financial collapse, a massive transfer of wealth because of a reset, really, of the financial system. The Western-based monetary system, debt-based, U.S.-driven and centered financial system that's reigned for generations now, coming down, and that transitioning, and also a lot of that population reduction being due to migration patterns out of the now impoverished West. Now, by the way, they said this in 2017. They were targeting 2025. Sometimes these things take time to develop. So I wouldn't say all of that has to transpire, in the year 25 or by the year 2025. My targets for looking at all these different points and all these different sources keep ringing back into this 2025 to 2030 period. But yeah, that Deagle report is not the level of the significance of that source is not something to take lightly. Let's just put it that way. And when taken together with a number of other scholarly cycles theories and occult sources and real experts and AI, it's all pointing to 2025.
I definitely want to get into Alice A. Bailey, but before we go there, because there's no going back once you go there, I also found I'm not sure if you're aware of this one. Predictions for 2025 were made in 2008 by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, where they predicted change in international system, just like what you were saying, the economy changing, the death of the dollar, Western model of liberal democracy vanishing, which fits in well with the China success stories shown by Deagle, and the BRICS countries thriving. So what other information did you find that sort of synthesizes and supports this prediction for the 2025 to 2030 range?
What you just stated there, and then the Martin Armstrong scenario is similar. He sees 2032 as the end of this period of crisis, where it would be a Chinese-dominated world order, and China becoming the financial capital of the world. And, I'm a believer in Bible prophecy. I don't ever count on that we have that many years out into the future before the Lord returns. So that's a period of time Martin Armstrong has identified, 2025 to 2031, and specifically 2025. And he said this for many years. He didn't just come up with this in the last year or two when Russia happened with Ukraine. And he was pointing to 2014 as the beginning of the major war cycle. And 2014 is exactly when the Russian coup happened. And then 2025 is when war begins to really go global and hot. Nuclear by 2027. And interestingly, though, we're in an election year, so some of these things can slip into ahead of time when there are vested interests wanting to accelerate global events. But that 2027 period where things could really get dicey, and then into 2032, just like the 2008 source that you were just mentioning, by that period, you're looking at the changeover of the global order. And prophetically, crisis means preparation. You translate crisis into am I ready in the truth, in the word of God, with my family, practical preparedness measures in the country. So I know that some of the things we're talking about are quite alarming, but Jesus referred to, when you see the signs of the times happening, men's hearts will fail them for fear for what's coming upon the earth. But he says, when you see the signs, wars and rumors of war, pandemics, the Bible spoke of pestilences and natural disasters and famines and all of these things. He says, lift up your heads, for your redemption draweth nigh. So there is no fear in love, and God does not give us a spirit of fear, but of power and love and a sound mind. And I know I'm preaching, that didn't go exactly to your question, but these key points take us somewhere in prophetic history.
How about that? Very interesting, huh? And then, yeah, you guys have seen the timeline many times on this show. This is what I had sort of put together back in 2019. And Kelly says here, that fits my timeline. Yep, that's exactly why I wanted to show you that video, or at least a piece of that. That whole video is about 35, 37 minutes, somewhere in there. It's pretty long. So we watched, 10 minutes of it, or 12 minutes maybe. And I thought it was pretty interesting, some of the things he talked about. I've talked about the Deagle report at length as well. And I do think it's a very important part of the overall picture here, part of the puzzle. And you can see on the timeline here, he was talking about the alien presence sometime after 2025. And what I have here on this timeline, just real quick, the idea here is that Jesus' return would be Feast of Trumpets 2028. So if you work backwards from that date, September of 2028, you get early 2025, January of 2025 or so. And that would be the final 3.5 years. And things would unfold from there, which coincidentally or not fits exactly what Scott is talking about there. Scott Ritzema is the guy's name. So I had never heard of him before, but I thought the video was very interesting. And yeah, it does fit a lot of what I've been talking about over the last 5 years or so. So yeah, it's very, very interesting. Certainly worth a watch. I'll probably watch it a second time as well. So anyway, I thought I would draw your attention to that, and feel free to be on the Substack list if you're not already. I think that he makes a lot of really good points. And the whole alien thing makes a lot of sense to me as well. The fake alien, whether it's an invasion or however they mask it, you'll see I have it right here. Satan loses a war in heaven, thrown down to earth. When Satan is thrown down to earth, his army that comes with him may be the, quote, alien invasion we keep hearing about. In reality, they are fallen angels and or their technology, not space aliens. That's a myth and a lie. So yeah, I tend to think that they are already here, and they are interdimensionals at best, and come and go through our reality, but they're not necessarily traveling between planets or live on another planet, at least. Maybe they are traveling between planets, but they don't live elsewhere. I believe they live on Earth. So anyway, very interesting stuff. So that is that's the timeline, and the timeline is available on the Substack post as well. If you guys care to investigate that further, if you've never seen it or heard of it before, I do link to it in the Substack post. So definitely be on the diamonddisc.substack.com is where that is. Just put your email address in here, hit subscribe, and then you will see, here's the meme that I put out earlier. You'll see the Diamond Report here on Substack, and that's where you'll get the email with all of the links to the broadcast, the final broadcast that I put out tomorrow, but also it will have the links to all the articles that I talked about. So anyway, this is last week's show was all about the eclipse. And if you scroll down a little bit here, you'll see that the article links start here. And so these are all the articles and things I talked about last week. So there's a lot of them, including some embedded videos and things. So that's what that's about. And definitely be on that list. Yeah, I survived the 2024 solar eclipse. That's a lot what it looked like for me. And I ran my GoPro camera that day, and I don't know, probably about 5 or so hours. And with that 5 or so hours, doing a time-lapse video, you get about 2 minutes worth of video. And it was really good cloudy sky video, but it showed nothing that had to do with the eclipse. And here where I am, all it did was it dimmed about maybe 50% for a few minutes. Well, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes or so. And that's about all we had here where I am in Nashville. So I don't know about where you guys are. If anybody out there experienced totality or what. I do still think, though, that it was a sign from God. And I do think that we need to watch for something to happen potentially in the next 40 days. Not within the next 40 days, but at the 40-day mark, which would be May 18th. We talked about it last week. So, yeah, May 18th is the day to watch. That is also the beginning of Pentecost, which I mentioned that last week as well. So we'll see. May 18th could be something or maybe not, but just need to keep a sharp eye on that. If you're on Twitter, definitely follow me on there. Diamond Report, The Diamond RPRT is what it is. The Diamond RPRT on Twitter X, and I do put out quite a few retweets. Thought this was kind of a funny one. This is Jay Dyer. You guys may know who he is. I've played videos of his, clips of him on this program as well. He's a good guy. I've talked to him before, and he's been a guest on Lost Arts Radio in the past as well. But this post that he put up said, "Amazingly dystopian headline." And this is the headline from Business Insider: "Millennials and Gen Z's trendy new splurge, groceries." Their trendy new splurge is just groceries. Yeah, that is amazingly dystopian. So anyway, there's some interesting things here on Twitter X that I usually try and repost, and you guys can scroll through those and find some things that I have retweeted, reposted, and then also the broadcast from tonight will be on there as well. I upload it directly to Twitter. So here is my YouTube channel, Take It to the Lord in Prayer, End Times Dates, and I found out earlier. Let me see if it's working. I found out earlier, I guess. I checked takeittotheLordinprayer.com. Why don't you guys try it and see what you get? www.takeittotheLordinprayer.com. What I was getting, I found out, was a warning that it was malware. Let me see if it still does it or if it's working like it should. It should redirect you to the Rumble channel now. But what I was getting was, yeah, it's working now. What I was getting was, if you go to takeittotheLordinprayer.com, instead of going to the Rumble channel, what it was doing was you would get a malware warning. It said, malware, this site has been hacked, blah, blah, blah. And there is no website. It was just a domain name. So someone, somewhere, co-opted my domain name and was redirecting it to a malware warning page. And the people at my registrar, where I registered the domain name, had no idea what was going on. They couldn't figure it out either. So what they ended up doing was refreshing the DNS. If you guys know anything about websites and stuff, you might have heard of DNS, domain name server. They refreshed the DNS and it finally reset it. It took a little while for it to start working again. But I thought it was interesting that my domain name got completely co-opted by someone somewhere and was redirecting it to a malware page instead of to my Rumble channel here. That's Take It to the Lord in Prayer on Rumble. So I've got all those videos on a playlist on Rumble. So that's what we're looking at there. Anyway, so that is the Rumble channel, and welcome to you Rumblers over there. We had quite a few people on Rumble tuned in tonight, as many or more there than there have been on YouTube tonight. So that's awesome. Although they're a lot quieter over there. Not too many people chatting. Looks like Gerhard is there, so hello to you and whoever else is on Rumble. Glad you guys are there. Yeah, okay. So Kelly says site cannot be reached. Yeah, so that may still be the case for some people. I was thinking that I was maybe getting blocked at the ISP level, but I'm not getting blocked anymore, and I didn't know if any of you guys wanted to try it and see if you got the warning. But it was saying it was a malware and infected, website warning, stay away, when it was only ever my YouTube playlist. And then I reverted I diverted the forwarding to go from YouTube over to Rumble some time ago. So it should be the Rumble playlist for the Take It to the Lord in Prayer End Times Dates video series, but many people aren't even getting that now. They're just getting a warning. So there I am on Brighteon, Diamond Disc on Brighteon. It's DIAMONDISC, and you'll find the Diamond Report there as well as BitChute. And then we mentioned Band briefly earlier. So if you're interested in joining a free community group where you can go and, chat with others, and maybe even as important, do your own postings or whatever the things that you're investigating. Just ask that you keep it clean, and let us know what you're looking at, the things that are interesting to you guys. I do find it interesting, and we do have lots of really good posts on there. So it's a growing community, and the link is there in chat if you're interested. And if you're seeing this later, I guess the best way to get to it would be to look in the description box. It will be there. So the Diamond Report on Band. And Band is, as I usually refer to it, it's a kind of like a Facebook a little bit, but it's there's no censorship on Band, which is really great. Let me see if you guys have any other comments before I depart for the evening. I wanted to mention, I'm going to set up, speaking of Band, I'm going to set up a poll on there, probably tomorrow. If you're on Band, you'll be able to take part in the poll. I'm going to ask you guys what days or evenings during the week you might be interested in seeing this show. If you want to keep it where it is, or if you would rather have it be a different day and time, let me know that. I'm going to put a poll up on there probably tomorrow at some point, and we're going to just take an informal poll, because I say that because I may be having some schedule shifts and changes over the coming next 2 to 3 weeks or so, and I can let you guys know more about that as things progress. But it's looking like I may have some other times opening up on different time slots on different days. So we'll take a look at that, and I'll set up a poll, and we'll kind of go from there and figure out what we're going to do, whether we're going to keep it here at 10 p.m. Central Time on Sunday nights or move it to a different night. And I'm totally open to that either way. Whether maybe it's better to have it during the day on a day of the week or something instead of on the weekend. I don't know. Anyway, let me know what you guys are thinking on that. You can always just reach out through Substack and through the comments on the various video platforms and stuff as well if you're not on Band. But yeah, I'll set up the poll on there, and we'll just sort of see what you guys are thinking on that. Anyway, I hope you guys have a blessed week, and keep an eye on what's going on between Israel and Iran. I think that's going to be front and center for a lot of people. It's the 15th, so you know what day that is. It's tax day in the U.S. And let's see. I'm trying to think what else is going on this week. Well, there's, Israel stuff to watch out for, and then the red heifer stuff supposedly a week from now on the 22nd. We'll see. I don't know that it'll happen that soon. I think that it's probably going to all blow over, and none of this will happen until later on in the year. But I do think it'll probably happen this year, as far as the red heifer sacrifice. I do think that they want to do that very soon, so they don't risk the fact that the cows would be too old at some point after about 6 months or so more. So sometime after, I don't know, November or something like that. October, November, somewhere in there. So yeah, let's see. Looking to see if you guys have any final comments. Yeah, God bless you guys. Thanks you guys so much for being here tonight and for hanging out. And we got to go through some interesting articles and things. And yeah, we can close with one more video here. I've got another one here that's kind of interesting. I thought would be worth watching. So we'll do that, and we'll call it a night. We'll do it again next week. We'll plan on just probably sticking with this same day and time for the next couple weeks at least, and we'll see from there if we're going to shift things around. It wouldn't be right away. It would be probably 2 to 3 weeks from now or more. So we'll see. But blessings all, and love you guys. Thanks so much for all of your support. Greatly appreciate it. I didn't mention the store, but you guys can find that as well if you're interested in shop.thediamond.report is where it is. Cool hats, mugs, hoodies, shirts, all kinds of different little odds and ends on there. If you want to support the show, I certainly appreciate that, as well as just being on Substack. You can opt to do the paid version there if you're so inclined. No pressure. If you don't want to, that's totally fine, but I definitely appreciate it. As you know, this show takes quite a bit of time and effort on my part, so I definitely appreciate any help you guys can provide. So blessings all, and I'll talk to you guys again very soon.